If she hadn't had a pressing appointment with Lady Elvira that day on business related to Feline and her Royal Academy situation, Myne would have immediately cancelled everything and gone off to see Ferdinand. However, as Feline's de facto guardian, there was no way to get around the morning's meetings. Plus, it was far too late to message Lady Elvira and tell her that their meeting would have to wait. Myne was not foolhardy enough to do such a rude thing, even for Ferdinand. There were several things on the agenda. First, potential candidates who might serve as Feline's attendant were gathered in the green parlor. Among them was Feline's older cousin Isberga, who had served her during all her time in the Royal Academy. The woman was both a distant maternal relative and had always been sympathetic to Feline. Now that was all great and good, but Myne had to ask, if this woman was truly Feline's kind relative, why had this family member not stepped in and intervened when Feline had been tormented for so long in that hellish home? Elvira had also voiced her concerns, saying that it would be best that Feline should have a clean break from her past and have someone else with more connections and experience attend her. At that, Feline had pleaded with them and defended Lady Isberga, confessing that all those years she'd gone through great lengths to hide her shameful circumstances from everyone, including Lady Isberga. Besides, this cousin of hers had never been in a position to aid her. Feline didn't state as much, but it was evident that the woman had her own troubles and circumstances. Myne sighed, feeling that she couldn't argue against Feline's defense of her relative.
Life for lay nobles sure seems hard. I can't imagine not having any leeway to take in a poorer relative.
Feline was a good, obliging girl, and rarely did she speak up and ask for anything. So when Lady Elvira glanced at Myne, as if asking how she wanted to proceed, Myne shrugged her shoulders slightly, indicating that she had no problem with Feline's choice. Once the issue of Feline's move to the Royal Academy was sorted out, from her attendance, the cost of her courses, materials, and so on, Elvira's attendant brought out a box and undid the latch. When it was presented to Feline, the young girl gasped at the contents, and her grass-green eyes filled with tears. In the box were her ochre amethyst cape, her academy brooches, and other school accoutrements that had been sent over after Elvira had sent a no-nonsense letter to Feline's stepmother. Feline tried to thank them, but was having trouble finding words. Elvira merely smiled at her and bid the merchants come in. After working at a breakneck speed, both Myne's and Elvira's dressmaker and shoemaker exclusives had gathered to deliver some of Feline's completed new things, with much more still on the works. With a graceful flourish, they presented the items for their perusal, while Feline had her final fitting for her Royal Academy uniform. Once she stepped around the partition and gazed at herself in a mirror, Feline gasped. And no wonder. The uniform wasn't over-the-top ostentatious, such that she would look like she was trying to dress up her station. But even there was a simple black dress with bright green embroidery. It was of such excellent craftsmanship and of such fine material that Feline couldn't help but gleefully spin around in front of the mirror multiple times as she admired her new clothes. And then she began to cry.
Thank you ever so much, Lady Elvira, Lady Myne,
Feline said, tears spilling from her eyes and running down both her cheeks.
This means everything to me.
Poor thing. I wonder if deep down she was afraid about her uncertain future. Did she think I wouldn't see her through her final school years?
Feline hadn't been wrong to worry. Despite Myne's best intentions, she truly had been a bit clueless and would have ended up dropping the ball had it not been for Lady Elvira. Myne couldn't help but be grateful that Eckhart's mother had taken an interest in Feline and helped with the future of Myne's little attendant scholar. She had taken it upon herself to do all this for a girl who wasn't even related to her, all for the sake of aiding Myne. It occurred to Myne that maybe, she really should reconsider her view of Lady Elvira. Yes, thanks to her, so much misfortune had befallen on Myne and her friends early in the autumn. But in the last few weeks, she'd also offered her unstinted support. The woman had come to her aid many times by now. Surely Myne could rely on her. I don't think you have any suitable spring dresses for socializing, Feline, Lady Elvira was saying, while Myne mused on these things. We will take this opportunity to order spring outfits for you. Myne's mind tried not to wander off as she and Elvira looked at the designs for spring dresses and picked out some of them, while Feline was told to look at the cloth and pick her choice of colors, trimmings, and such. Myne wished they could get over this part already. Maybe she could choose what they wanted. No, maybe they could choose what they wanted while she went to her bookroom. But alas, that was not an option. Even she knew that much. Feline gazed lovingly at the richly colored fabric samples set out on display in front of her. But after inspecting them closer and realizing that they were of the finest weave, far finer than anything she'd ever worn, she paled and tried to turn it all down. Elvira shook her head at her protest. You should know better, Feline. You're no longer the child of some impoverished lay noble. Your mien and attitude must reflect your status and the status of those supporting you. I will not bring someone with me who's not dressed for the occasion during women's socializing. Feline relented at that, and Myne felt a pang of sympathy for her. Still, having Elvira on her side would benefit the young girl. All Myne could do was wish her the best of luck. The rest of the morning passed quickly, and before they knew it, it was past the lunchtime hour. By that time, Feline was by the sorry, by the time Feline, oh my gosh, sorry again. By that time, Feline was all sorted out, though the poor girl looked dazed and a little exhausted. The honey-haired girl excused herself while Myne and Lady Elvira retreated to the solarium to take their meal. While there, they talked over lunch about business, the upcoming feast for the night of Shutsaria, and so on, though neither mentioned what had occurred during the last salon and the consequences that Myne's blessing had wrought. I've lost you once again, Myne, Lady Elvira said as they were taking their after-lunch tea.
Pardon?
Myne said, startling a little and feeling her cheeks color, embarrassed to have been caught in the act of spacing out while Lady Elvira spoke about winter plans. May I hazard a guess as to why you've been so distracted all morning long? Lady Elvira said, her dark eyes narrowing knowingly. Myne felt a prickle of alarm. It's my son, isn't it? Oh, so it isn't Eckhart, then, Lady Elvira said, sounding disappointed. Judging by the way things are going with you two, and how he speaks of you, I had thought that perhaps... Oh, how unfortunate. Lady Elvira sighed and put her teacup down.
Lady Elvira?
Myne was puzzled, and her mind raced to understand what the green-haired woman sitting in front of her was thinking. First off, what did she mean about how things were going with her and Eckhart? Surely she did not know about how Eckhart had been staying over the last few nights, or that they had just shared a bed. There was no way that Lady Elvira knew that just hours ago she had awakened in his embrace. They hadn't done anything, but still... In that case, Lady Elvira continued, Lord Ferdinand must be the one in your thoughts. Myne audibly gasped and looked around in alarm, only to realize that it was just the two of them in the deserted solarium. Had she really been so distracted that she hadn't realized when Lady Elvira had dismissed her own attendants? Lady Elvira's dark eyes looked into Myne's golden ones, but for once the cool, haughty expression in them was gone, replaced by something like sadness? Pity? Myne looked away, feeling irritated as she remembered how, a while back, Eckhart had told Myne that his mother already was aware of Myne's feelings for Ferdinand. She wished the woman would mind her own business and leave her alone, with her own pain and shame over her impossible, unrequited love. Lady Elvira opened her mouth to speak, but rather than pry into Myne's business, she spoke about herself and her own marriage to Lord Carstead. As a nephew of Lord Adalbert, who had been ab Ehrenfest before his son Sylvester took over, Carstead had at one point been a leading candidate to become the next Archduke. He was greatly admired and lauded, and was seen as the hope of the entire Lazygang faction. Young as he'd been, he'd had to bear the heavy burden of opposing the corrupt and conniving Lady Veronica, who had kept Ehrenfest under her thumb for many years. Whenever her family got together, and they talked about how one day all would be better under Lord Carstead, Elvira couldn't help but cheer him on in her young heart. And on the very rare occasions that she got to see him in the castle, striding with purpose to the practice grounds, or leading the other children in their drills, he had always struck Elvira as an admirable figure. She'd harbored for years something akin to a crush on him. However, that was an impossible dream for her. Surely the future Archduke would have to marry a woman of higher standing than her, and who would come from a more prominent family than her own. She was from a backwater province, after all, and her family wasn't doing very well these days. Besides, when she was younger, she was a bit odd for a noble girl. They'd always made fun of her for all her scribbling, and for how she did not spend her allowance on clothes and things like her sisters did, but instead on parchment, boards, and ink. She was also the only one of her siblings who ever entered the family's bookroom for the sheer joy of it. Her most cherished memories of her girlhood were of the hours she'd spent hiding behind a curtain, sitting in a sunny window seat as she read books, wrote, or dreamed for hours on end. That was how one autumn she had heard about Lord Carstead's being demoted, and how his future was now very uncertain. She had listened on in silence, cold with shock as she heard how he would no longer be able to take the archducal candidate courses. His home would no longer be the castle, and his entire retinue was dissolved. His guards, his scholars, his closest attendants, they were all taken from him overnight. Not only that, but the family of the girl, who would have been his bride, had backed out from their engagement. How unfair it all was! Elvira, who had been just a young girl, hadn't been able to bear hearing about Carstead's misfortunes without crying. The adults who had been talking about it were immediately alerted of the girl's presence when they heard her sobbing disconsolately behind the bookroom's velvet curtains. In the end, because of his demotion, I was able to get closer to Carstead at school. As his friend's little sister, I was able to spend a little more time with him. And the more I talked to him, the more I liked him. My admiration matured and bloomed into love, and thanks to my grandfather, I was even chosen to be Carstead's bride. Being wedded to him would also offer me a degree of protection from Veronica, who by then had taken an intense dislike to me. And though the union was a political one, I rejoiced and thanked the goddess of unions and marriage for my good fortune. Lady Elvira stopped and was silent for a long moment. Myne felt that there had to be more to the story, so she waited on in silence as Elvira took another sip from her teacup. I wasn't given long to enjoy the bliss I felt, knowing that I would spend my days with the one I admired and loved, she said, casting her eyes downward. Soon I heard from my brother that Carstead was unhappy over our family's arrangement. I don't like to think about those early days, as they were intensely painful, and while time has eased the sting of the disappointment, it wasn't easy to live next to a man who saw me as another unpleasant duty hoisted upon him by the elders. It was painful, and has ever been so to this very day.
Lady Elvira,
Myne said, feeling her heart go out to the other woman. She had always thought that the woman in front of her was the perfect model of nobility, a paragon of virtue, intelligence, and wit. Myne would have never in her wildest dreams imagined that underneath that polished exterior was a woman who loved and felt so intensely that years had done nothing to dim the love she had for a man who had never loved her, and who, as rumor had it, was actually pursuing another woman to be his third wife. How could that man be so stupidly blind? Myne felt Elvira's tentative touch on her hand and blinked in surprise at the rare physical contact. Elvira's dark eyes were gleaming with unshed tears, but there was a fire of determination in them. When I met you, I saw so much of myself in you, because, believe it or not, I was like you once. I've seen you face multiple trials with grace. I've seen you take on one challenge after another and succeed despite the odds, just as I did once. I truly am so proud of you. However, I also recognize the light shining from your eyes whenever anyone mentions Lord Ferdinand. It's love, isn't it? Myne's cheeks burned. She looked away and pulled her hand back from Elvira's warm touch. She didn't want to talk about this. Not with Lady Elvira. Not with anybody. Her feelings were her own. Why couldn't people just leave her alone? You don't have to confirm it if you don't want to. I understand if you don't feel safe enough to talk about it. However, soon you'll need to decide your future course, and my own conscience would not let me be silent on this. First, because I feel I am in part to blame for having put you in this situation to begin with. And second, because I fear that your life might take on a similar trajectory as mine did. My marriage was arranged, so I had no real choice in the matter. But you have a choice.
A choice?
Myne said bitterly. The green-haired woman continued. I implore you to consider the next steps you'll be taking. Love is one thing, but it won't be enough in the long run. So, choose a good man for your life partner. A loyal and honorable man. A strong man who can protect you and offer you warmth, if not love. Then give your all to your personal goals and ambitions. Build something you can look back on with pride. Myne's vision blurred, and she had to look down to hide the tears in her eyes.
You want me to choose your son?
Yes, I do. My wish is for you to make the sensible choice, for I cannot bear to see you go through what I had to go through. Words cannot describe how painful it is to chase after the love of a man and place all your hopes and happiness on it. Eckhart, he might not be as dashing, nor is his presence as commanding as Lord Ferdinand's, but he would make you happy. He'd never stray, and he'd be a good husband for you. I've seen how he looks at you. He truly cares for you, and he'd support you in all your endeavors. Myne closed her eyes and thought about Eckhart and all the times that he'd put her together after she thought she'd been broken beyond repair. Myne knew that Lady Elvira had a point. She could see him as her companion for life. In fact, Myne had already made her peace with that outcome and had even started going down the flower path to winter with him. If only Ferdinand hadn't come and offered her that one alternative, then she might not be as troubled as she was now. Because now, all she wanted to know was there the slightest chance of making things work with Ferdinand? Nevertheless, the thought of withdrawing from everything and everyone she knew for a life where Ferdinand would be her everything made chills run down her spine. It was wrong on so many levels. But there was also something incredibly appealing at the thought that, in the same way that he was demanding to be her everything, she might have the chance to be his everything in return. I said all that I wanted to say, Lady Elvira said, interrupting Myne's thoughts. Except for one final thing, which I suppose I should have mentioned first. You'll have to forgive me, though, for even I fear rejection from those I cherish. Myne tilted her head sideways, confused. Lord Ferdinand would have you believe you only have 2 alternatives, Lady Elvira said with a wry and somewhat mocking smile. But he hasn't taken into account that others might want to help you. She took Myne's hands in her own soft ones, and then sighed. Myne, since you won't consider my son, I want to do what I can to help you. Let me adopt you. End of chapter.
Who saw it coming?
Sorry.
No one here saw it coming.
So
But
hard
it's
to keep track
interesting
sometimes.
that it's interesting that you gave her another choice and kind of made this like a moment between the two of them, even if they don't have the same relationship they had in canon. And Myne is still very not trust Elvira. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, she still has her defense is still up. I mean, they did have that little fiasco thing, and she's Elvira's slowly trying to earn back, I guess, the kind of trust that she kind of broke. but we'll see. Adoption. So in that way, they would bypass marrying Eckhart. If Myne can't get over her feelings for Ferdinand, then it's enough that she can't marry Eckhart, then Elvira's giving her the options, like, okay, fine, whatever, you won't marry Eckhart, well, at least enter noble society as my kid. I'll protect you, I'll shield you, you can live with me, you can continue to do your thing, but under our family's protection. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bombshell. I'm reading the comments here.
I want to see Eckhart's reaction to like hearing what? You adopted her?
I wonder if he'll even know about this conversation and what his mother suggested. We'll see.
Let's see. If Elvira were to adopt Myne, that would make Eckhart a
brother. And
oh no! You know where I'm going with this. You know where I'm going with this.
My brain was a little bit too slow, and I was like, "Yeah, that'll be her brother." Oh, dang! Of course, it had to be you to say that. So let's see. We got Elvira. Had a little bit of a backstory. Now, full disclosure, we know in canon the feelings. She says she didn't have feelings for Karstead, so I kind of just like, just let me have this, okay? This about like feelings and stuff. So, but there was like a lot of like friction early in their marriage, if you guys will remember, between her and Karstead. So that is here. Like, but the fact that she had a crush on him, I was like, man, I think Elvira should have a crush on him, so I'm gonna put it on here. And yeah. So that's me. That's a magpie headcanon, okay? In this alternate weave, Elvira caught feelings for Karstead, and she loved him. She still loves him, but he's breaking her heart all the time because he's a dumb butt in this weave, okay?
So that is something that kind of struck me in this chapter particularly, because granted there are things that are different, but I thought it only spawned from when Myne didn't join noble society, didn't depose Bad Santa, and all that stuff, and Ferdinand ended up as the High Bishop. So I thought it only started at that point, but it seems to go back further. For instance, as you mentioned, where Elvira was actually in love with Karstead.
Yeah, I will.
Genuinely don't remember what was the canon between them. Like, I genuinely don't remember. All I remember are all the fanfics that I read. So like,
it was purely political. It
Yeah.
was purely political, and they had no feelings for each other
Yes.
until Myne was adopted.
Yeah.
Oh my
So that's what I'm saying. Like,
And-
I try as much as possible to stick to canon, but I needed this. I needed to have angst and stuff. So my avatar had
Yes,
to go
you
through
and
it.
your novellist.
I'm gonna be
sorry.
honest. You have genuinely replaced in my head what the relationship
No.
was like. Like I just thought this was the canon.
No, it's not canon. Elvira never
Also-
got feelings for him.
Also, Karstead had 3 wives in the canon.
Hmm.
One of
Yeah.
them died before Myne was adopted, and
Mhm.
that's how they established her,
Yeah.
lineage.
Yeah. But like I just thought that like they had feelings at least at least at the very beginning of the relationship, or like before they got married a little bit. I imagine them having feelings a little bit and then growing cold like after they got married. Then maybe had
No.
Eckhart. Like that's kind of my
Yeah, but
understanding.
let me just you can think whatever you want because ultimately it's your headcanon. But realistically, that's why I had to like call it out here. Like, just FYI, people, I gave Elvira a tragic love story because that's just me. Okay, that's just me. So
It's a Magpie original.
yeah. But I try other than that, I do try to keep as faithful as possible to canon, except for trying to. Yeah. Anyway, so just please give me this one thing, okay? All right. So let
And
me.
if you want to give Magpie some more things, you can go ahead and like, subscribe, join her Ko-fi,
You can.
and join her over on her main channel, The Chattering Magpie.
Yes, you can. Thank you for the plug, Patrick. Now, I forgot to read
Since
some
you're
of the notes.
never going to do it yourself.
Well, I was gonna do it after we were done reading, but this is a good time as well. Now, let me read the notes for this chapter. The note says, let's see where they're. Myne and Elvira have the closest to what they will ever have of canon's mother and daughter chapter. It doesn't have quite the same impact because obviously they don't have the same history, and Myne still has some trust issues, but Elvira truly cares and is trying to help in her own way. What do you think of her suggestions? So we got some comments in there. If you're interested in what people thought about it, you can go ahead, go to my AO3 page and read the chapter yourself. But
I think not only should Myne accept this offer, she should also marry Eckhart because I'm 100% on board this ship.
but that would make him a anyway. You can't do
Yeah, I
both.
was on board.
You can't do both. You
that's
can't
the-
marry your adopted
Yes, you
sister.
can. Yes, you can.
You
cannot.
can. I agree.
You cannot. It is
She's
unprecedented.
adopted. That it's not unprecedented.
If Elvira adopts her, they would be seen as children of the same mother. Legally, that would be illegal.
That's no. That only worked if she was seen as actually being of Elvira's blood, but she's not. She's just adopted.
Listen,
Because-
it's the same with Rosamine and Wilfred. Rosamine is basically Florencia's adopted daughter. So
Is she? I thought she was Sylvester's adopted daughter, but it doesn't necessarily follow that she is
don't know.
Florencia's mother. I don't know. Oh, nobility
She
is weird.
So she is in nobility seen as Elvira's blood daughter. Like she was born from Elvira,
Mhm.
but she was adopted by the Archducal couple, and so Florencia is her adopted mother.
Mhm.
Thus, since she's just adopted, she can still marry Wilfried.
Yeah. Well,
yes,
we don't
we're
necessarily
doing
like
the same
that.
with Eckhart.
We don't necessarily like that, but okay, we'll see. I see what you guys want, and I am waiting to see what you guys think with what I come up with. So I don't know. You have to read and find out.
COVID spawned a lot of stories like this in certain websites.
Oh my. Quoting a certain person. All right, you guys. How about we continue reading and leave the speculation for another time, because I don't want to say I cannot confirm or deny anything. I'm just like, well, I just have to read along and find out. All right. So the next chapter we're going to read, it is finally chapter 60. It is titled Impossible Wish 2. Point of view is Myne. I remember Ferdinand had asked for a meeting. She was like, not today because I have to see Elvira. Elvira dropped her bombshell. The next day, that's when Myne went to go see Ferdinand. So let's see what happens in this meeting, everybody. Ready? Let's do this. Chapter 60. Impossible Wish. Myne. Summary. Ferdinand and Myne meet and talk about her future. For the second time in her life, Myne got on her carriage and made her way to Ferdinand's estate. Just like that first time, she was both dreading and anticipating her meeting with the man she loved. And just like that time, she had to take deep breaths and remember everything Lady Elvira had taught her, just so she wouldn't succumb to her anxiety. As this was a social call rather than a formal business meeting, Ferdinand had ostensibly invited her to tea. Myne was forced to come accompanied. Riding with her in her carriage was Feline and Angelica. Her honey-haired attendant looked a little anxious, but had a very determined look as she gripped onto the large basket that held an assortment of treats from Myne's kitchen. Meanwhile, Myne's blue-haired attendant had her hands free, but though usually she gave the impression of being something of a space cadet, Angelica's blue eyes were sharp and on the lookout for any danger outside their carriage. Furthermore, Myne knew for a fact that hidden within the sleeves and the folds of Angelica's dress, her attendant/guard had a vast quantity of weapons and other unspeakable tools of destruction for their protection, including Verita. Myne sighed and turned to look out the window of her carriage, wishing with all her might that such caution were unnecessary. When her carriage stopped at the steps of the imposing structure that was Ferdinand's abode, it wasn't Eustace's familiar smile that greeted her like the one time when she had visited, but Lasfram's, whom Myne did not know well. The green-haired man was everything that was courteous and genteel, but as he welcomed Myne and led them upstairs, she couldn't help but wish that Eckhart, her friend, protector, and companion, were at her side to lead her up to see Ferdinand. But silly her, she had insisted that she would be fine, and Eckhart had nodded in approval.
I don't expect anything to happen,
he said just before she'd gotten in her carriage.
Just be safe. I'll fly behind you.
Myne stepped out of her carriage and took a step up the stairs, but a sudden gust of wind blew, and the chill in the air almost took her breath away. Gasping, she looked up to scan the skies above to see if it was going to rain, but her attention was caught by the winged wolf flying over her. She couldn't help but smile at the familiar caped form riding astride it.
Everything will be okay. I am sure of it.
And so, she made her way up to see Ferdinand, heart thundering as she climbed the stairs up to him, blood racing the more she became aware of him, breath stuttering when the door to the room where he waited for her opened, and his light golden eyes rested upon her. Her meeting with Ferdinand started off innocuously enough. His attendants poured tea, her attendants presented their offerings. Poison testing, talking about current events, blah, blah, blah. For a good long time, they kept up the genteel facade as Myne's anxiety grew and grew. It was not like Ferdinand, who prized practicality above all things, to beat around the bush and waste both of their valuable time.
Is it Possible that he's just stalling? Is he hesitant to talk about whatever? Oh no. Surely it's not bad news.
Myne felt her face go pale at the thought that he had summoned her to deliver some evil tidings. Then, possibly sensing that she was inwardly dying, Ferdinand finally extended his hand and gave her an anti-eavesdropping device.
What's with all the secrecy?
She asked.
And why the sudden summons?
Ferdinand lowered his eyes in thought before he spoke.
The last time we talked about your future, I presented you with two options. However, upon further examination, I have concluded that one of the two options I presented you with is not viable.
She had an idea which option he was talking about. She had toyed with the thought of leaving everything behind to live a reclusive life surrounded by books, with only Ferdinand by her side. But in the end, she knew that her love for Ferdinand could only go so far. What would become of her on days when she was stuck all by herself out there? She'd go insane, waiting around for him. Myne tilted her head sideways.
Oh? You mean the one where I am cast out, almost as if I were some kind of criminal?
Ferdinand's eyebrow twitched, but his voice was as unaffected as if he hadn't heard her.
I'm referring to the option of withdrawing altogether from society and into a remote villa, yes. Ultimately, I do not think keeping you isolated from the world would serve any particular purpose.
Myne's mood soured a little at the realization that Ferdinand's main concern was making sure her existence continued to benefit the duchy. Being some hermit which she could no longer produce new products or offer her mana would be counterproductive to those aims of his.
Well, not that I expected any better. I see,
she said.
So this urgent summons was basically to tell me that that any semblance of choice I had in the matter has been stripped away from me?
You can choose to see it that way.
He replied.
But you should at least understand what this will involve. It seems to me that I did a poor job in explaining myself and the urgent need for you to become a noble. I assure you that there are many benefits to you. I don't want you to simply accept nobility as something I forced upon you. I want you to understand.
Myne fumed quietly, but listened as he explained how, according to him, her life would actually change for the better, and that come winter, not only would she be introduced in high society, but she would be officially recognized as a person behind many of Ehrenfest's new industries.
I thought the entire point was to keep me away from the spotlight and away from those who might seek to kidnap me,
she said, puzzled.
If you are seen as a benefit to the duchy, Sylvester should have no problem assigning a security detail to you. Or in the case of an abduction, he could send out a rescue party after you. You'd have to move into the castle, but...
No!
She said with finality.
Absolutely not! I will not be uprooted and forced to leave my home. Not again!
Ferdinand closed his eyes as he rubbed his temple, muttering under his breath.
Why is it that the older you grow, the harder it is to get through to you?
I don't know what you just said,
she retorted.
But I'm sure it's nothing flattering, so I'll ignore it, okay? Besides, I'll have you know that all this time I have been thinking and racking my brains over this, and I think we came with a good solution.
We?
Ferdinand frowned.
You and Lady Elvira?
No, Eckhart and I. So Lady Elvira also provided another solution. I think I'd rather not take that route.
Tell me about both. Start with your and Eckhart's idea.
The long and short of it is, he moves into my house and we continue on as we have been. No need for marriage or for me to be a noble.
Ferdinand's eyes widened in surprise.
What?
It's actually the most convenient plan, you see,
she said, plastering on a smile on her face as she went ahead and told Ferdinand how Eckhart had analyzed the security system and pointed out vulnerable spots, and how they could deal with that. He'd also recommended several trustworthy and capable men that she could hire as her guards, should she need to go to the lower city or temple, while Angelica was proving herself more and more capable by the day and could protect her during social events. Additionally, with Eckhart moving in, he would be at close at night should anything happen at that hour. Myne had pounced at the idea because having him around always made her feel much more at ease. And come winter, she would be sure to fall into melancholy without him around.
It really makes no sense that Eckhart and I both have our own homes, when every waking moment that he's not at work or with you, he's over at my house,
she concluded.
Of course, he'd have to bring over his attendants and shut the home he shared with Heide Marie so many years ago, but he's willing to do so if it ensures my safety and your peace of mind.
Ferdinand closed his eyes and sighed.
There are some glaring holes in this grand plan of yours, but I see why you would choose this course of action. Now, tell me about Lady Elvira's suggestion.
Well, she said she could adopt me.
What?
He exclaimed.
She said she'd adopt me.
She repeated.
I heard you the first time, fool.
Ferdinand grumbled.
What a ridiculous notion. Karstead would need to be involved in this scheme, and he's never mentioned it to me, nor is he likely to agree with it.
I figured as much.
Myne said.
She wants me to think it over, but even I already know it is impossible. Besides, I'm far too old to be adopted, and I have absolutely no wish to be part of another family. I already have one. Thank you very much.
Ferdinand shook his head.
While it is rare, it's not unheard of for nobles who have already come of age to be adopted into a new noble family. However, it tends to destabilize families, and Karsted's home situation is nothing if not complicated. Taking you in as the daughter of his first wife means you would be in equal standing to her other children, and with the same privileges and rights that they enjoy. Adoption is the fastest way into nobility. Even if you haven't attended the Royal Academy, that was why I was going to suggest adoption into a family before you barged in here with your crazy suggestions.
You were?
Yes, but you seem to be very much against the idea.
Correct.
You do know what it means for Elvira to take you in, don't you?
Ferdinand said, raising an eyebrow.
You would be able to move into the Linkberg estate and take advantage of the protection that comes from being... Hold on a second. I need to look at that over again. And you won't be... Oh, I think I accidentally skipped a page.
We're in 5.
Yep, that's what the problem was. Okay, you would be able to move into the Linkberg estate and take advantage of the protection that comes from being part of that family, which is nothing to laugh at. But most importantly, you would be entitled to receive your share of the inheritance. Though that also means you would be taking from the rightful heirs. Eckhart, Cornelius, and Lamprecht and their son.
Well, I don't want that.
Myne said, sounding outraged.
Why would she propose something so rash?
I can only imagine two things. One is to secure a monopoly on you and your ideas, which is entirely in line with her character. The other is she desperately wants to keep you around for some other reason. However, this is unprecedented behavior. She must have been seized with a temporary madness.
He glared at Myne accusingly.
What exactly did you do? How in the world did you manage to win Elvira over so thoroughly and completely? She's not a woman to give in to these kinds of whims.
Don't look at me as if I planned all of this. I also think it's a bad idea, for one. That would mean I have to move to her house. Imagine me living under the same roof as that ruffian Cornelius.
Cornelius is not the one you have to worry about.
Ferdinand murmured as he rose from his seat. He paced to one of the large windows and looked out. Myne also rose and followed him there. He was looking out toward a huge castle, and Myne realized that Ferdinand's estate was actually part of the palace grounds, and so near that it could be confused as an extension of the castle itself. How had she not noticed that before? As if reading her thoughts, Ferdinand continued in a softer voice.
Consider this. Unmarried adult daughters are sometimes given side buildings to live in. You already have your own household, so I think Elvira might give you your own building to live in. Rather than have you all crammed in her mansion, she probably wants you to use the residence that Karsten's third wife would be given. It would mean a world of trouble for you.
Myne blinked as the words sank in.
Ah, I see.
Myne said with a bitter little chuckle.
So, she might be using me? Of course she would.
Ferdinand was silent, and Myne suddenly felt very somber and more than a little sad. She didn't want to admit it to Ferdinand, but during that heartfelt conversation with Lady Elvira, Myne had somehow come to think that the woman was someone that she could, after all, trust. She might not accept to be her adoptive daughter, but she would be very happy to have her as a friend and ally. To think that all that time Lady Elvira might have only been seeing her as a convenient tool was a little heartbreaking. She leaned her forehead against the cool window pane and let out a heavy sigh.
Noble life is the worst. I desperately want to go home,
she said without thinking. When she realized what she said, and she looked at Ferdinand with alarm, he was looking down at her with an unreadable expression.
I mean, the socializing, isn't it exhausting?
Ferdinand grimaced.
Sometimes I forget about your shocking lack of common sense and propriety. But since I was responsible for educating you, I guess I have no right to complain. Very well, let's end this meeting. You won't enter the castle and get a security detail. And you won't let yourself be taken in by a noble family to live under their protection. Withdrawing into obscurity is out of the question. So now we have to talk about this other alternative.
Having Eckhart move in?
Yes.
Ferdinand looked away from her.
If that is what you truly wish, then I will discuss the details with Eckhart.
He paused and looked at her meaningfully.
It is what you want, isn't it?
Myne was on the brink of saying yes. That was what she wanted, but mind and heart battled one another. Her mind agreed entirely with Lady Elvira's words, and she understood that her best chance at happiness was with Eckhart. But her heart wasn't cooperating.
What if I were to return to the temple again?
She whispered, in spite of the fact that they were still holding anti-eavesdrop devices.
No one would ever think of looking for me there. And if you postpone your return to the noble society and continue to be High Bishop, then it would be like the old times.
Ferdinand exhaled, sounding exhausted.
Mine don't.
She continued as if he hadn't said anything.
We could work together from third to fourth bell, share lunch before going to our own work, and then meet again for dinner and talk about our day. I could read to you, and after our meal, or we could play chess while Rosina plays music. Remember how much fun it was when we lived and worked together in the temple?
Ferdinand was still as a statue, but Myne went on.
Don't need you to love me. I will gladly settle for a lifetime of just being friends, like before, so long as I'm able to still be in touch with my family and work on my books and have you near. I won't care if you can't love me back. I would still be the happiest girl in the world because I would still get to be with you.
Her voice wavered and her vision blurred momentarily. She had to blink repeatedly to blink away the tears.
Ferdinand, during this whole year, haven't you missed me? Even once? Even if it was just a tiny bit? Haven't you wished that I was back? Even if it was only to help you as your calculator?
Ferdinand's flawless, noble mask slipped momentarily, but he turned away before Myne could read his expression. Then he ordered the attendants out of the room. Only Feline and Angelica stayed put, but Myne nodded at them and they left the room along with the others.
Ferdinand?
She said, extending a tentative touch toward him.
Enough! Enough, Myne!
He said, whirling around. His face looked anything but composed. He was flushed, furious, and terrifying as he snarled.
I told you to drop it!
But I did!
She protested.
I'm not asking for your love. All I want is to go back to how things used to be.
Ferdinand laughed, and it was not a mirthful laugh in the slightest. He took a step closer to her, and then another, backing her up until she was against the window. He spoke in a cold, sneering tone.
Impossible. How can you expect man to live anywhere near you without him losing his wits, his reason, his sense of honor? Just the thought of you is enough to drive me insane sometimes.
He grabbed her by her shoulders, digging his fingers into her flesh painfully.
Having you within my grasp, day in, day out, would be my undoing. What you are proposing would be torture of the most acute kind.
Ferdinand, you're hurting me,
Myne said, trying to shake off his grip. He blinked as he came back to his senses, and with a shocked gasp released her. Uttering an apology, he stepped away from her and collapsed back in his chair, as if he'd been wrung dry of all emotion. Myne followed him there, kneeling next to him.
Ferdinand, about what you said earlier, does that mean, do you?
Yes,
He said, in an exhausted tone. It seemed that he was so exhausted he wasn't even bothering to hide his thoughts and feelings from her. It was as if he had all but given up.
My heart delights in spring for you, in the same stupidly besotted way you also claim to love me. Miss you?
He said miserably.
I felt like a walking corpse when you left. Your absence was unbearable, but your presence is equally painful. I don't just want to hold you, I burn with a desire to possess you that is so irrational and intense that it sickens me at times.
Myne's heart thundered in her chest, and her body felt a glow at his words. She caressed his face gently, brushing his hair away from his face. He grasped her hand and kissed the palm gently. The feeling sent sparks of sensation shooting up her arm and through her body.
Then why?
She breathed.
Why did you do this to us? We could have avoided all this heartache and...
Ferdinand shook his head.
There are many, many reasons, mostly political ones. The chief among them is a promise.
Promise?
Myne asked.
About what?
He looked away from her and rose from his seat.
You should go now,
He said.
I'll handle everything from here on out.
Ferdinand!
Myne rose and chased after him before he could walk out the door. She grabbed onto his hand and pulled him to her.
What's all this about a promise?
He paused for a long moment, as if in thought. When he spoke at last, he sounded almost defeated.
Go and ask your father. He'll tell you everything.
End of chapter. Notes. Ferdinand is not well. Send help. Next chapter, the lower city.
Oh my god.
I'm on my way, Ferdinand. I'll help.
By the way, you guys did so good. Oh my gosh, the drama, Patrick, you did so well with that Ferdinand. And Yukihime, that Myne who's like being so emotional, like she's like begging for like him to come to his senses, and he won't.
Yeah, she has so many feelings in this chapter, and she like has both like a jovial and happy moments, and then desperation and crying, and like I had a lot of emotions.
Yes. So
also, you have to show like my comment on AO3 because it's a work of art. I have worked on it.
Oh, let me see.
On this chapter. Yeah, just me. So I'm gonna read. On one hand, I am happy that he could finally be honest and she could finally know that it wasn't just in her head. On the other hand, no, Myne! Don't throw away a lifetime of peaceful happiness for a passionate love that may burn you. This is a man that is too self-hating and indecisive for long-term happiness. Also, you can't just forgive and forget the last year of pain he caused you, no matter his motives. Also, how could you still propose to be to him? To be by his side after how close you got with Eckhart. Get it together, girl. Yes.
You couldn't have said it better, Yukihime. And by the way, I'm showing the comments on the stream.
but
it is
we have a reverse harem here. So
yeah, no, he's not invited to the reverse harem.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I let you guys play around, but reverse harem is not a thing that you will ever see here. Like, let me shoot that down from right now. No reverse harem. No, I'm not into that.
I've got the reverse
In this
harem.
house, we're not into that.
there are so many eligible bachelors in Ehrenfest that could be so good for mine.
But only
what
one.
did I just walk into?
Dear, welcome.
You came at the perfect moment.
We just finished, though. By the way, I want to say thank you both to Teal, who highlighted chapter 59, and Hirami, or Emmy, who is also part of our Discord, but unfortunately wasn't able to join us. She did chapter 60. So thank you both for highlighting. You guys know highlighting these chapters is what makes the reading possible. So
thank you, Emmy.
So thank you
for helping.
Thank you, both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're awesome.
Yeah. So again, during this chapter, people, I tell you, like I was complaining earlier before we went on the live about how this work of fiction, this fanfic, kind of makes people frustrated, angry. It makes them have feelings, you know?
Yes.
So a lot of readers at this point were just like saying like, how dare she just throw Eckhart over, like forget about all the stuff he's done for her and just say like, no, like let's give this one more shot. Like, what do you guys think about this? Do you guys feel the same way, angry at her, or do you guys understand about, where she's coming from?
My mind is telling me no, but my body is telling me yes.
Oh my gosh. Are you telling me all this time you've had those pipes and you never... Oh my gosh. We now know that Patrick is a great singer.
That was terrible.
I don't know. That was pretty impressive. So okay, I take it you do understand where she's coming from, yes? Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why songs like that exist, because in your mind you can be like, you know what, logically this makes no sense. I shouldn't be doing this. I have a perfectly safe option here. Eckhart is a great man. He could make me happy. He could make me comfortable for the rest of my life. But, oh my God, that hot man Ferdinand.
Yeah. Did you guys expect that this chapter, this conversation would lead to this, or what were you expecting going into this conversation? What would you think?
I had hopes for her.
I was hoping for, adoption.
Adoption, okay. What else were you guys hoping for? Let's see. We had two paths. We had she marries Eckhart. She's adopted by Elvira. Now she brought up the temple, which in my opinion is the most ludicrous of all, because that means that they have to stay in the same rut as they've been going through. It's like, do you guys remember? Now that I think about it, I think Jane Eyre really was formative. Like, it just stuck to my subconscious. Now that I'm reading what I wrote, it reminds me a lot of what Rochester said to Jane. He's like, let's, or at least in the movie, in the 2006 version, he's like, I have a villa, we could live as brother and sister, we could just meet in the afternoon for tea, maybe play like a little game of bowls out in the lawn, but like it would be innocent, it would be pure, we'd just be friends, it would just be super platonic. And this is what Myne is kind of like proposing to Ferdinand. It's a last-ditch effort before she decides on her future. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like the fourth last-ditch effort.
Oh, man. So, what do you guys think is going to happen? We have the next chapter, she goes... Ferdinand has finally said that there's a big promise that's keeping him back from like entering into a relationship with her. So, what do you guys think is going to happen in the next chapter? When we cover Lower City.
I'm thinking she's going to be very, very angry with Gunther, and Gunther is going to do everything in his ability to try to placate the daughter who has to, go into this scary world.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we'll see what happens afterwards. What she manages to learn about the promise, and I don't know. Will talking to her parents and getting more clarity about the situation change the course of her future? We'll see. Now, here's another question that I have for you guys: is when Myne told Ferdinand about Elvira offering to adopt her, he said, you have to be careful because you could be getting entangled in the political machinations. Remember, Elvira's husband wants to install another woman in his household, right? So he's saying you have to be careful. It could probably be her using you for this, familiar war that she has going with Karsta. Do you guys?
Yeah, it broke my heart.
Do you guys think that this is the case? Well, we did have an Elvira POV, but do you think that this is also part of it? Is it a fair observation, or is it too much of a jump? He's projecting from his own past. What do you guys think?
I really want I want Myne to talk to Elvira, because I think Elvira can clear things up, because we all know that Elvira actually does care for Myne, but we only know that from our perspective. Myne, from her perspective, doesn't.
Yes.
And she relies on Ferdinand, who's her rock, her source of wisdom, her window into this noble society, which she is overwhelmed by. She relies a lot on Ferdinand, and Ferdinand is using, in my opinion, his biased past, because he doesn't trust anybody. Everybody's out to get him. Everybody's got some sort of plot to ensnare him. He's better off alone. That's how Ferdinand feels.
Yep. If you guys didn't catch the little what happened there when he brought it up, when she told him about the adoption, he walked over to the window to look over at the castle, and he kind of was quiet and in thought, and he was thinking about Veronica, political machinations, and he's thinking about how he was also a pawn, let's just say, in politics, and he was also had to be, he's part of the family, but he was also used as a pawn. So he had Veronica in mind all this time. So Veronica, she's no longer around, but we can see her specter, not just in Elvira's sad story, but also with Ferdinand. She's gone, but her poison lives on, and this is so tragic. I feel like Canon did such a good job of Rosamund just came in and she was like a washing press, like full trainer, she just cleared out, purified like a massive Vashin, she cleared out all of that Veronica nonsense for the most part. Her presence kind of cleaned up relationships, cleaned up circumstances, and that this didn't happen here. So there's still a lot of unresolved feelings, a lot of bitterness from the past, a lot of unresolved issues between even Ferdinand and his own family, which is what makes Ferdinand here in this weeb so much more broken, as you guys could see here. I kind of also, I had fun pushing him to his limit. Also, thank you, Patrick, for doing justice to that scene where he finally loses it, and he finally is like, you know what? I am so tired of fighting you, and this is the truth. Putting it all.
Yes, I love that sentence. How you said it. It was amazing. Like suddenly, he exploded, and suddenly he had his noble mask down, and yeah, you made you said it amazing.
Thank you. Though I did show that he kind of lost a little bit of control himself, because he was he held her, he gripped her shoulders, and he hurt her. So that's also kind of yeah, it's good that he's finally being open, but it's still, there's a level of toxicity here that we have to be careful with.
Yeah, so I wanted to make him sound not only just as wit's end, but I wanted him to sound scary.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how he felt in that moment. Because people discount it, but Ferdinand is pretty much the living embodiment of Oegli, the god of. He wants to possess the one he loved and keep her away from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Keep her frozen in time so no one can touch her.
And there is a measure of that in canon, like towards the end, and even in Hannah lore, when we see how she goes to school and she's covered in face stones that he made. But the power dynamic is absolutely 100% different here. As than it is in canon. In canon, he's actually like Myne here has so much to lose. She's definitely like the inferior, more vulnerable of the two. Whereas in canon, she's a strong woman. She's freaking Archduchess. She holds his name. She can like shut down whatever, like it's different. So he's still the same, like every glebe kind of deal, but it makes it less okay here than it is there, or it makes it a little bit more okay in canon.
Yeah, she doesn't have that power over him here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to mention a certain someone in chat, Bergie. I hope you feel better, buddy. I really wish that you'd been here to be Ferdinand, because I think you're a better voice for him.
Bergie, hello. Okay, says hi all. I just woke up from being sick in bed all day. I hope you're feeling better. I hope it's not the cold or the flu, and that it passes quickly. But we did happen to have a good person to take on the role. So Patrick, please do not downplay your efforts. Please don't downplay your efforts. We do miss you. And
after hearing him
return.
last week, he did such an amazing job. We need more Fergie in that role.
We do need more Fergie. We do need more readers. I just appreciated how you guys both delivered the lines, and there was no lacking. So thank you guys for your efforts, and I am so looking forward to future chapters. We will get more emotion and stuff like that, angsty and drama stuff in future chapters. We are heading. Are we like about? Yeah, we already surpassed the halfway point of this fanfic. Oh my goodness! So if you guys are following AO3, the latest updates, then I did update a chapter. Chapter 105 is now up. Go and read it. Go and leave the kudos. Go and leave a good comment for your magpie. She needs all the encouragement. I don't know. I just need validation. So there's that.
Yes. If you don't have anything to say, just send hearts. Send hearts.
Yes. I do have to though let you guys know we're gonna go on a hiatus for about 2 weeks. So I'm gonna leave you guys on a cliffhanger, you guys. I'm so sorry. This is the point where we kind of like have to you guys either wait for me for in about 2 weeks or so, when we'll be back to do a read along, or you can just head on over to AO3 and pick up from there. Up to you. Whatever you want to do.
Or you could go back and listen to all of our past read-alongs.
Exactly.
That's always fun.
Yeah, don't worry.
And
2 weeks will fly back.
Channel, and on the other channel for all the ones there.
Yes. So I hope that you guys do join me for that. Let me see. Let me pull up my calendar. Where's my calendar? Okay, here's my calendar. Sorry. So today is the only read-along we'll have this week. Tomorrow we are going to have a Hannelore chit-chat, where I will also be announcing on the other channel that I'm going on hiatus for this part of November. So we will be back on the 25th. 25th of November. That's when we're going to have another read-along. So It'll be on the week of Thanksgiving. Yes, the week of Thanksgiving we'll be back. I hope that you guys do join. Don't forget that we still have this channel's not dying. I need to catch up on some work stuff and life stuff, and you guys know how it happens in the holidays. Everything gets so super busy. So I hope you
Coming back on Thanksgiving, so you truly have something to be thankful for.
Yes. and of course, when we come back, we'll be back to doing the two days a week. The 25th Monday, 27th on Wednesday. So yeah, you'll have plenty to talk about, and it'll be fun. And I will have by then hopefully have sent out all the gifts to the Zen tier members, all of you Zen tier members. I am working on that, so you should either they go out or you receive them by then. I'm working on it. Okay, I'm working on it. Bear with me. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. If you want to receive, well, actually, it's too late. You usually have to be like a long-time Zen member to receive I think at least 2 months. You have to be a Zen tier member to receive a care package from your magpie. But if you sign on this month, by next year you will get yours. All right. So that's all we have for today, unless there's something else that we missed for these 2 chapters. I think that's all, right? Yes, that's all. Okay, so with the gang and I, we're going to go and do other stuff. We have a Hannelore read along over on the Discord server, so if you want to join us, join us. But if not, tomorrow we'll see you for a Hannelore chit chat, chapter 24 and 25. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, gang, for joining me. I hope to see you on the 25th when we pick up on the story. Bye, everybody. Thank you. And thank you to the following people who read. Myne was read by Yukihime, Feline was read by Teal, Eckhart, and Ferdinand was read by Patrick. And of course, highlighting today was Teal for chapter 59 and Hirami for chapter 60. You guys are the best. Love you so much. See you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.